The backlash to the nearly $1.8 billion fund that has been set up by the Trump administration to potentially pay out Trump supporters and his allies is only growing today as everyone from disgraced Congressman George Santos to Capitol rioters hope to cash in on it. The Washington Post reports that among the people thinking about applying for these taxpayer-funded payouts, this guy on your screen, Mark McCloskey, one half of the couple that gained notoriety for pointing guns at Black Lives Matter protesters back in 2020. He says his reputation was damaged. It also includes the former Congressman George Santos, who was serving time for wire fraud and identity theft before having his sentence commuted by Donald Trump. CNN reports also that My Pillow guy, you remember him, election denier Michael Lindell, well, he's hoping to cash in on it as well, and he wants to get compensated. One person has already reportedly filed a claim, former Trump staffer Michael Caputo. He's seeking $2.7 million for being investigated by the FBI's Russia probe. Now, if you don't remember, U.S. intelligence concluded that Caputo worked with Russian agents to produce a documentary about Ukraine and Trump's first impeachment. But in Caputo's telling, he is a victim of so-called weaponization. Now, the prospect of people like these getting potentially millions of your dollars has enraged Democrats, and it has made quite a few Republicans in Congress very uncomfortable. Outgoing Louisiana Republican Senator Bill Cassidy tweeted out, quote, people are concerned about paying their mortgage or rent, affording groceries, and paying for gas. Not about putting together a $1.8 billion fund for the president and his allies to pay whomever they wish with no legal precedent or accountability. This is adding to our national debt. If there needs to be a settlement, the administration should bring it to Congress to decide. Another senator, Tom Tillis, saying this, quote, imagine that, a fund that is set up to compensate people who assaulted Capitol police officers. How absurd does that sound coming out of my mouth? Well, Democrats are trying to ensure that Republicans pay a steep political price. Congressman Jamie Raskin says that he plans to propose a bill to block funding for the fund, an effort to force every Republican member to get on the record and decide where they stand. Now, political, ethical, and legal firestorm around this so-called slush fund is where we begin today. Tracy Fight Love is here. She is the founder and executive director of Lawyers for Good Government. Also with us, Scott MacFarlane. He is a chief Washington correspondent for Midas Touch. He did extensive investigative reporting around the Capitol insurrection, including the prosecution's sentencing and trials of those rioters. And with me here at the table, legal analyst Christy Greenberg. She's a former criminal division deputy chief at SDNY and host of the YouTube show Courtside. It's great to have all three of you with us. Scott, you did some of the most important reporting around January 6th, but let's start with what you are hearing from folks on Capitol Hill about this fund and how this is all going down on the place that was attacked back on January the 6th.
Eamon, the sales pitch the Trump administration undertook for this slush fund on Capitol Hill is something they could put on a White House blooper reel. It has been a clown show from the start of the pitch to where we are now. The Senate, which was to take up a critical Trump priority, a reconciliation plan, a priority list of things for Trump's immigration and customs enforcement agencies. That thing blew up. The Senate pieced out and left town for 2 weeks because they were stuck in the mud on what to do about the $1.7 billion fund for convicted crooks and rioters. Haven't found a single senator, not a single one, who says declaratively that he or she supports this thing. Senator John Hoeven of North Dakota told me that this is one of the issues. The slush fund, or he calls it the potential guardrails that are needed for the weaponization fund, is a wedge issue even inside the Republican conference. There are no owners of this thing on Capitol Hill, and the White House has had trouble selling anybody publicly on it. And Eamon, when you list the names of the January 6th defendants, the high-profile fraudsters who say they want millions of dollars from taxpayers, that makes this sales pitch even harder.
Christy, give me your thoughts on this when you just hear about what is happening with this fund that is being set up. I don't think anybody in this country with a straight face would look at what happened on January the 6th and say those people who attacked our Capitol were somehow unjustly prosecuted. In some cases, they actually admitted their own wrongdoings on that day, some people who ultimately went to prison for it. And yet this is a fund that is meant to correct an injustice in the eyes of this administration. What do you make of it?
The inmates are running the asylum.
Right.
These are the criminals. These are people who are found in court to be guilty of crimes. We all saw these crimes happen on TV before us. We all saw the attack on the Capitol, and now they are crime victims. It's outrageous, and it's dangerous. It's bad enough to pardon these people, but to now reward them, I mean, we remember Trump saying, stand back and stand by. Now it's stand up and cash in. And the message that sends that it's not just for rewarding what they did in the past, but the future January 6th that we could see. I mean, the midterms are just 6 months away. And so, yes, this is corrupt, but to me, it is more than that. It is dangerous. I worry about the message this sends in a time where we really have to worry about political violence, that somehow this is endorsing it. And the fact that the Attorney General, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, when he was asked if anybody who assaulted a police officer, if any of them would be eligible to make a claim, he didn't rule it out. He said, sure, they can make a claim and it'll be up to the commission. The answer to that question should have been, of course not. Of course, anybody who assaulted a police officer won't get the taxpayers' money. And he didn't say that. And that tells me that's exactly who it's intended for, because nobody is telling us anything different. It's all fundamentally based on this lie of trying to rewrite history, that somehow this wasn't a violent attack on the Capitol. This wasn't trying to steal the 2020 election. And this is how the rule of law is dying right in front of us. It's death by 1,000 lies.
Yeah, you bring up a really important point that I wanted to ask you about, Tracy, and that is the issue of rule of law. And let me just ask you about this fund and how it potentially works. The Washington Post reports that, quote, the agreement states that payments will be reported quarterly to the Justice Department, but that those records will remain confidential, and that the fund's members will get to decide whether to disclose their processes for granting or denying claims. So on one hand, the payouts are confidential, and the board members don't have to explain who gets a claim. There's actually no transparency in this process whatsoever. And to Christie's point about rewriting the narrative around an attack like January the 6th is that history will look back and say these people were wrongly convicted and deserve some kind of compensation, and we have no visibility into how or why.
The complete lack of transparency, lack of accountability, attempt to shield this entire fund and this entire process from any sort of oversight is all part and parcel of one single thing that we have all now been watching for quite some time. And that is one of the most brazen abuses of presidential power that we have ever seen in this country. It is presidential self-dealing by means of a manufactured legal process in an attempt to legitimize corruption. That's all it is.
What do you think of the lack of transparency in all of this, Christie, and the fact that there's no, not only no visibility, I mean, Jim Comey, the former FBI director, who's now not been prosecuted once, but potentially twice. I mean, obviously the first one was dismissed, but not for a lack of trying on the part of this DOJ. A real example of what many believe to be the weaponization of a Department of Justice, going after the president's political opponents while simultaneously creating a fund for all those who are basically his foot soldiers.
Yeah, so let's take the Jim Comey example. So Jim Comey has a case right now, a pending case, and I expect he will make a motion to the judge that he is being vindictively prosecuted. Trump's DOJ will get to respond. We will all get to see the briefing, and there will be argument, and then a judge will issue a decision, and it will all be transparent. That is how vindictive prosecution claims have always worked. There is transparency around them because there is a public interest in knowing if our government is being weaponized in some way. It's rare, in the past at least, that it happens, but you know about it. And if there is a finding of vindictive prosecution, there can be payments made. You can get attorney's fees. You can move for costs. You can move for sanctions against the prosecutors. But it's all public. It's all transparent. The fact that they are hiding this, the fact that they don't want us to know who is getting the money, what the amount of the payouts are, that this is all, again, people that the Attorney General is going to get to choose, and Trump can just remove the commission at will who gets to make these decisions. I mean, he is pulling the puppet strings here. I mean, this is all Donald Trump. He says he didn't know anything about it. He's all over this. So
he was bragging about it last week in the Oval Office. This week, he doesn't know anything about it because of the backlash that it created. But in this theory, does James Comey, does he have a legitimate grievance here that if he gets, if the DOJ is being weaponized against him, can he make a claim here?
He should make a claim. So he should make a claim. Letitia James should make a claim.
Right.
John Brennan. Everybody that feels they have a claim should make the claim, and then let's see what happens. I mean, I will eat my words if any of them see a penny from this fund.
Tracy, what are the best legal means you think people have to fight this? There's already been some news that people like Harry Dunn and Daniel Hodges have filed lawsuits. Give me your sense of what you think happens with those lawsuits and if there's a chance for them to succeed.
The possible legal remedies here are very limited. And the reality is that the whole way in which this settlement took place was designed to create exactly that outcome. That's why I say this is all fabricated. It's meant to look like a legitimate legal process, but it isn't one. So I believe our best bet at this point is to look to Congress and to insist that every member of Congress pay attention and do their jobs in ensuring that we have some type of oversight over what is, in fact, a giant conflict of interest masquerading as a legal outcome.